So what I have is a confession from a gang stalker, and the gang stalker refers to the gang stalking program as a syndicate, like it's like a mafia, like it's ran like there's certain they say it's a fraternity like mafia where some people aren't even aware of certain aspects of the gang stalking program, but the gang stalking program is it's it's a real live legit it's not it's a legit program, but it's a real program, and this is why you have to be cautious of who you recruit and who you extend information to, because you know humans are humans, and we have the ability, or we tend to get disgruntled and tell secrets. This is why some people have to be sworn to secrecy, or some people might have to take an oath, or things of that nature. But if things don't go somebody's way and they know something about you, you know, 9 times out of 10 they usually tell your business. When a friend fall out with another friend, and they aren't of good um, they aren't of good character, they'll tell all of your business. And this has been going on for ages, so it's nothing new. But what I do have is a confession from a gang stalker, and he tells you about the program. And as he tells you about the program, he mentions names, but he blocks those names out. So I guess because it's giving away too much, and they would it would only get back to it being him because of the information that he knows, and I guess because of certain issues that he might have had with certain people, they would automatically know that it's him. But here I have that confession, and it goes like a confession of a gang stalker about gang stalking, aka the syndicate. So it says, I was eventually offered a place in the syndicate. The syndicate was presented to me as a kind of fraternity, a Masonic like mutual profit organization with strong police like overtones. He said it's a Masonic like mutual profit organization with police like overtones. I was told that I was helping to build a better society. However, I have never been given any of the advancement opportunities I was promised. The advancement system of the syndicate is a slippery slope. They make you give up your security privileges, so eventually all of your communications are watched. So if you're in the program, people in the program itself will be watched and monitored, and they'll be gang stalked as well, because you sign you sign up for that. So they make you give up your security privileges, so eventually all of your communications are watched, which is why I had to compose this email offline where they can't see me, and sent it via an internet cafe. So anytime you're doing something online, it's subject to being watched, and it's subject to being seized, I guess, by the same people that he's telling you, because it's there's a lot of parts to it. This is not just one um, people that's doing it. It's a whole conglomerate of people, and they have the best technology, the best psychiatrists. They have the best, everything. So it makes their program a little bit more solid. It solidifies their program by having access to these people. So he said he had to compose his email offline where they can't see him, and you send it via internet cafe. So the IP will go back to the internet cafe as opposed to being um, him it being found that that's where it was sent from. It was sent from there. So he said he sent it from an internet cafe. He said you have to attend meeting after meeting of mind numbing pledges and chants. The promise is that if you sign up or if you sign a contract giving up your personal liberties for the group and you are genuinely innocent, then you will be promoted. I have only been promoted once to the rank of manager, and I don't feel as though it was a rewarding experience. Worse, you are never allowed to leave because they think that you will give away secrets. Leaving is only permissible with a special contract that permits the syndicate to destroy your credibility. So if you leave, you sign a contract that you allow the syndicate to discredit you. So they could say anything about you, that you're, a rapist, that you're a child molester, that, you're anything that will be discredited, that you a drug addict, an alcoholic, or you're anything that will discredit a person is what you sign up for. Is it what you sign up to allow the syndicate or the program to do? So he said, leaving is only permissible with a contract, with a special contract that permits the syndicate to destroy your credibility. So usually they make sure that the most attention any secrets that you reveal gets is from a crackpot UFO magazine, or they diagnose you with schizophrenia. See, that's being diagnosed with schizophrenia is how they completely discredit your your sanity. So he's insane. He has no idea what he's talking about. Look, he's has a schizophrenic. He's been diagnosed with schizophrenia. There are other problems. If you have children, you have to send them to an education to education and syndicate owned schools. If you have a wife, you have to report on her. Allow her to be spied upon and be prepared to target her if they decide to make her into a TI. So when you're in a program and you have a wife and she's not a part of that program, she's apt to become a target because she's amongst you and they don't know what type of information you'll expose to her. So they have to watch her as well as watching you. So you have to allow them to spy on your wife if you have a wife, and be prepared to make her a TI if they give you the order. She's to be targeted and she's to be watched. So the official compensation policy is that you will get to keep the children if she lodges a divorce. However, you won't get to keep most of her material goods. They only want her to lose in a divorce proceeding so she gets nothing, not so the husband gets anything. So the syndicate takes it back as a sort of tithe, like a tithe. I suppose I should introduce the syndicate in a little more detail. I'm still not sure precisely what it is trying to do. It depends on the person selected and who initiated the campaign. There are also different groups doing this that are not necessarily connected and whose motivations are different. To everyday citizens, it presents itself as a group trying to monitor terrorists or any other kind of flavor of the month undesirables like gays, communists, witches, and drive them out. To other people, it's a Rotary Club, a chamber of commerce type operation. To others still, the most twisted conspiratorial minds, it is an organization that pulls the strings behind everything. To the Puritans, it's a cleansing force. To the deviant, it is a gang of other deviants where everything is permissible. So, you know, it's like a gang of deviants or a gang of criminals where criminal activity is permissible is permissible. And it's the syndicate to everyone though. It's like it's the syndicate to everybody. Don't matter who it is. It's the syndicate. I don't know the extent of what it owns. In this respect, it is 100% Jesuit. It's a Jesuit, like a Jesuit in origin. It's 100% Jesuit in origin. See here? Let me see if you can see that. Right there. You can't see it, but it's actually right there. I'm not sure of what it owns, but it's 100% Jesuit in origin. It's the Jesuits. It's like it's a religion. A people that controls religion is actually behind it, and it's a conglomerate of fraternities that's along with the Jesuits. You would have to go and find out who all the Jesuits is and their role in this world. But he said it's 100% Jesuit in origin. Like that's where it originated from. I know a great deal about the targeting process. When we get targets, we divide them into four categories: mercenary, practice, planning, and enemy. A mercenary targets are bought by outside parties. We advertise under a range of guises, from ads by individuals claiming to be able to kidnap people to practical jokers, like people that play jokes on you, like go around slashing tires and might leave a note on your car, or it's different people for that has different effects on certain other different levels. So he says the mercenary targets are bought by outside parties. We advertise under a range of guises, from ads by individuals claiming to be able to kidnap people to practical jokers. Some groups like um, big corporations and some governments, the government of, he blocks a lot of names out, like when you see the XXXXX. So the government of XXXXXX pays us to keep some people busy. So do another government he doesn't mention. So do when they have to have too many people protesting and wilding. We know full well what sort of services we do. Like they know, what type of, things they do for, you know, the syndicate. They know it's not a secret. So we don't really hide them. Certain unethical PIs, private investigation firms, are actively involved. He's saying that private investigators are also involved in the gang stalking as well. I know of two. One has become a national firm simply because they were rewarded by XXXX for participating in his campaign against me and others in a large multinational firm where XXXX has very high level connections. He has also spawned another firm involved in online identity theft protection. Ironic and suspicious given his predilection for stealing and abusing people's identity. We get a lot of money from them, but we can still muster up a fair bit if worse comes to worse. Maybe XXX count, but you'd be surprised at how much money we can get from crime. XXXX was responsible for two major thefts, netting him $1.3 million each. One was an art theft, the other a jewelry theft from a close friend. I don't mean that we go around robbing people, but we can outsource money from biker gangs, skinheads, drug dealers pretty easily, and from government grants when one is connected. Our syndicate gets a lot of support from people in rough areas like XXXXX and XXXXXX because they are areas with a lot of people in genuine need who would leap at the thought of fighting back at the criminals. We can always find allies to pressure the criminal portion of society. Of course, they are only pressuring them into giving us money, but it's a pretty cozy arrangement. It's called blackmail. But what are the criminals going to do? Report it to the police? The second type of target is the practice target. We use them to train mobs. The targets don't actually change because we don't want too many people fighting back at us, but we do rotate trainees between practice targets. This stops the person seeing the same people every time there's a street show. So they rotate people to keep you from seeing, the same people. Say you had a confrontation at a grocery store that was staged, like it was a setup at a grocery store where a guy bumped into you. Now he want to fight you, and it seemed like it can't be real. So where did all this stuff come from? And it's all street, what they call street theater. So to keep that from you saying, hey man, I just had a problem with you last week. I was about to get into it with you last week. What are you following me? So they alternate, they use alternate people when it comes to, street theater, so you don't catch on to, it being something that's orchestrated. So what they said is, we rotate trainees between practice targets. This stops the person seeing the same people every time there's a street show. Then there are planning targets. These are selected by the syndicate for some reason or rather, but aren't paid by the mercenaries. They aren't paid for by the mercenaries. You can usually tell the difference between planning and practice targets because they send people with experience after them. So they send people with experience after the planning targets. Like you have to have experience, you know what you're actually doing. Don't botch this. We can't mess this up because this is, we're planning to do something. So that's the planning targets, and they're still chosen by the same people though. So these are, they're chosen. You ever heard of chosen one? So it's a way for you to be a chosen one, and then there's a chosen one as far as being chosen for targeting, and you have to be chosen. You have to be selected in order for you to be targeted. So that's another form of being chosen. So they're still chosen by the same people though. The practice ones are chosen for their timidity, like they're real scared. They scare easy. That's what the practice targets are used for. Oh, we can put a scare into him. We can put a scare into her. So they'll just be used for practice. And I don't know how the planning targets are chosen. He doesn't know how to plan. Like it's different for the planning targets. Enemy targets are people that decide they've had enough and turned against us, since they protest and try to foil our plans, which, considering that our jobs are already nervy, is a real pain in the ass. So the enemies are people that are vocal and aware of what's going on, and they speak out about it. So these would be considered, like what I'm doing right now, I would be considered an enemy target, being that, you're associated with the program. You're not just any kind of target. You're not just a practice target. You're not a planning target. You would be considered an enemy target because you're not keeping your mouth shut about, the program's effect that it has on society, or how it had the effect that it has on you, in per se. So you would be considered it, like the people that speak out about, Freemasons targeting them and stuff. They would be considered enemy targets if they aren't Masons themselves. Sometimes, Masons have the tendency to pose as them, pose as targets in order to lure other targets out to see what sort of information that they know. So you have to be mindful of what people call a perpetrator. I don't use those type of terms. So once a person says a perp, I automatically know that, it's those aren't, everyday terminologies that we use. So a person that used that type of term, I would be cautious of them. So enemy targets are people that decide they've had enough and turned against us, since they protest and try to foil our plans, which, considering that our jobs are already nervy, is a real pain in the ass. We try to really give them hell. We try to give those people hell. The best way, of course, is through the psyche, like through the mind, like through their mental fortitude. My supervisor used to say that the Soviets had it right with sluggishly progressing schizophrenia. He blocks out a name, XXXX. Being that I'm giving you the XXXX um, in the amount of X's that he used, this could be in reference of, the name. The name might be a four-letter name. So XXXX figured this out in 1958 through his friendly, if that's even possible, association with Dr. Ewan Cameron of MK Ultra fame, and his use of this strategy against his earlier victim, Greta Gold, who I believe ended up an MK Ultra victim, or Greta Geo, or however you pronounce her name. Can you see that? Greta. No, no, you can't. I don't know why it's so blurry, but it is what it is. Some people up top are proposing that we just kill them and have them declared natural causes or accidental by the coroner. It isn't likely to happen though. XXXX has killed at least 3 people who got in his way. So some people at the top are in fact doing this. XXXX doesn't hire syndicates. He is his own syndicate and has put together his own organization for this purpose. His targets are innocent women associated with controversial figures. In only one case has he violated this rule, and in this case, the woman was as guilty as the man. Of course, he's not obsessing over the man, he's too gutless to do that. And the people who were killed were mostly men who got in the way of his hate campaign against the woman he targeted. My guess is that he kills them when he loses control over them because he's basically afraid of them. Or he's basically afraid of men. Anyway, I should introduce the main branches of the syndicate. Each branch recruits its own. Every day, everybody is a member of one of the branches. Each branch recruits its own instead of people just joining a common pool. This keeps the work separate and stops people from finding stuff out that they shouldn't. My branch is the scripting, observation, and execution bureau, or the theater, as it is popularly known. And by execution, I mean the execution of orders, not the other kind. So he's not talking about where my branch deals with the execution of people. No, we deal with the execution of orders as far as street plays and writing the script. Writing the script up. So We do the work that the majority of people with any knowledge of gang stalking will be familiar with: pestering and scripting minor incidents. The theater is actually divided into two sub branches: scripting, orchestration officers, or playwrights, as they call themselves, and field officers, or thespians, as we call ourselves. So you got the playwrights, then you got the actors, the thespians. And we have the most variety in our recruits. Popular sources are the police, the fire department, the zoo, the technicians of any kind, but we recruit from all places. Most members are neighborhood watch types, not official neighborhood watch, but concerned people. Ironically, we make sure that we do a lot of good just to get some credibility. XXXX likes to help vulnerable people like abused women, women with cancer, mentally ill people, victimized minorities, etc. Then recruit them for his hate campaigns. If a person is a key person, like a friend of the target, he will often victimize the person himself to soften them up, claim that the target did it, and then use that to recruit them. He will recruit somebody's friend by, slander, or playing the blame game, or saying that the the person they're targeting did something to them. So hey man, you might as well join with us in order to target him. Then there's the Bureau of Authority, aka the money bags. They don't actually control the syndicate, but they have all the right jobs and connections. A job might have control over the judicial process, but he will answer to a superior in the syndicate. Psychiatrists belong here too. Like psychiatrists are used, to rule you mentally insane, or to say that you're mentally incompetent. You have no idea what you're talking about. So once you have a professional diagnosis of a mental disorder, it's anything goes from there. He's crazy. He don't know what he's talking about. He's just so psychiatrists belong here too. Like they belong in a part of that group with the judges, the police, the firefighters, you name it. Anybody to somebody. The technician, the Bureau of Technicians, whatever. The money bags are so called because they raise a lot of money. It would be suspicious if big corporations funded groups like this, but they can invest money into front groups like government funded anti hate networks, which they use to actually incite hate. See, like government funded anti hate networks. Anti hate networks, which they use to actually incite hate. So when you have like the Black Lives Matters and things like that, these are their groups used to lure in people that feel, a certain type of disdain towards a certain treatment. So they use them to lure or incite other hateful avenues or channels for you to engage in. So that's what they do, and this is one thing that I knew that they were doing from this is an old practice. Even with the Black Panther Party, all these parties, all these groups, they were all used to lure people in. They can disguise you as whatever, but as long as you might have some sort of feeling towards that, they know that okay, he feels like that. So that's one, because they know their people from your people. So they can dress me up in a straight up revolutionary regalia as part of them, but they can have me being the one that lures other people in that aren't associated with them to target them because they feel that type of way. You get that set up. So Okay, we're going to go here. They can invest money into front groups like government funded anti hate networks, which they use to actually incite hate. XXXX set one up in 2007 in my community, and the majority of the syndicate's work is done through completely legitimate fronts. We can tap phone lines and access people's records from behind government agencies. XXXX has done this to me using high-level corporate government, police, and intelligence connections. Usually, they are the guys that go after enemy targets. Normally, harassment is organized under several action policies. Normally, harassment is organized under several action policies. If a target isn't an enemy, a standard policy is enforced. Low level organizers, the aforementioned playwriters, play around with the target for a while and rotate crews. Like they play with you, then they rotate the crews around, like they rotate the actors around. While the individuals change, certain other things do not. So it's easy to identify these crews. When a target is an enemy, the policy doesn't immediately change, but orders filter down from high level organizers, usually the Supreme Council, which direct thespians to provoke the target or a similar action and money bags to crack down on them once they get in the way of the system. So let me reread that. When a target is an enemy, the policy doesn't immediately change, but orders filter down from high level organizers, usually the Supreme Council, which direct thespians to provoke the target or a similar action, and money bags to crack down on them once they get in the way of the system. This is called mincing because the thespians lure the meat. It's like minced meat. They lure the meat by making it complain or fight back into the mincer. So they lure people into fighting back at them. So that's the way that they become the enemy. Come on, fight back. Yeah, say that. Yeah, come on. So that's what it is. Matter of fact, in one of my cases, I had the girl. I knew she was the target. I always tell you about her because it's obvious, especially when you're dealing with you know a person with eyes to see and ears to hear. I see what's going on. So she was sent to me as a damsel in distress. But then later on, you you flip and then you pick fights with me and then try to get me to fight and then say I'm calling the police. So these are things of that they would do. They would lure you into um, getting out of your character. And once you get out of your character, now they have ways to crack down on you. And a thing about her was, she was associated with Garfield, New Jersey, which is indicated that once you go in that city limit, the police force and everything in it is Masonic owned, is Masons own the city of Garfield. This is one of the reasons why Bergen County is um, a rich country or one of the richest nations in the world is because they're um, they're ran by secret societies and the people that own the money. So she was from Garfield, and when you go towards the Garfield Police Department, because I don't had a lot of run-ins dealing with the program and not knowing the extent of the program. So the whole police force knew her, but knew her as somebody that was crazy. Maybe she didn't know that she was being used by the program, but she was because her mother was married to a Mason. Like her mother was married to a Mason. Her ex-husband was a Mason, so they're familiar with the program. And another thing that she used to say was, because she used to get high, she used to smoke crack, but she would never admit it. But you know what you know, and you seen what you seen, and you was actually around her when she bought some before, and went in the bathroom with people that you know got high. So when you confront her like, yo, you stop getting high. She always used to say, I throw up the rock, not smoke it. She always used to say that, and anytime she said it, she always did that. She always did the I throw up the rock, not smoke it. But she used to get high, and that was something that I was aware of. Like, yo, why is she? She's associated with something along that lines. And one time I said, it's about the people involved in playing with me, and I started naming people like, yo, such and such, and I was like, yo, Masons. And when I said Masons, she raised her eyes open like this. She was like looking this way, and I was like, yo, they Masons. And she said, you know, so it's not a secret. It's not no secret no more that who's all involved in this process, or and who's doing what to who. But every time she was trying to set me up, I always allowed her to know, like, yo, I am not a ray. I don't know about anybody else you have set up, but I'm a divine being. I'm under divine protection. It's a difference between anybody else and me. It's a real big difference. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. For some people, we're supposed to have been a target in order to get to the root of the program. We're supposed to have been targeted so we could know the ins and outs of the program. If I was never a target, I would never know how the program worked. But some people are supposed to be a target by the divine, because maybe throughout the annals, or the course of this world being established, they violated the divine. And the divine really wants, justice, and justice will be served. In every avenue of this world where justice is needed, justice will be served. And I always try to stress the fact, what is justice if justice isn't extended to everything? If these people don't get brought to justice, why should these people be brought to justice? If those people are not being brought to justice, why should they be brought to justice? You know? So maybe some of us had to be, um, a target in order for us to know the ins and out of, the system. So I'm not, like I stated before, nothing bothers me. Not like bothers me, like, things do bother me as far as, like, people. But as far as bother me, nothing bothers me. Nothing bothers me. But it bothers me the way that the world plays with people and on people's um, intelligence, and uses them for, their own personal interest, as opposed to the interest of the whole world in its entirety. So that bothers me, But yeah, that don't bother me. But here we go. This is called mincing. They mincing, lower you in. They lower you in, and then um, make you fight back against the people that's doing the mincing, or what they call the mincer. The Bureau also protects members of the syndicate, normally in a court case, psych examinations, or similar situations where a syndicate member is at the mercy of a money bag. A special order arrives from above telling the money bag to take it easy on the guy and let him off scot free. The order is always printed in blue on a fancy cherry blossom paper, but in a very official border font. I know of several cases where the person was caught doing something illegal. The intent being to frame me, and in all cases, with the exception of one, neither the news media reported nor was any action taken. Cherrying, like cherrying, like cherry picking, cherrying is the name for this secret process. The Bureau of Authority has a very organized system of lawyers, judges, medical officers, etc. Whenever you're committing a crime for the good of the syndicate, you must always report your location. Then they send cousin Nancy. See, that's the thing. When, like, once everything was coming into to to make start making sense about the girl, my mother, her husband being a Freemason, and them being working in cahoots with each other because the girl and my mother's husband knew each other all their life. They met. My mother met her husband. I don't know how she met him, but I believe that she was targeted because of her connection with me, and um, she ended up marrying the guy that because she was lonely. She was somebody that was by herself. But if it wasn't her children that she was around, she stayed to herself. So having a man give her a new light because I told you about my father passing away. So she ends up marrying this guy, and the girl knew him because she was friends with her father. Her father could be, a Mason as well, and I'm not sure if he is or not, but the girl's father and my mother's husband was like this. Like they knew each other their whole life. He knew her since she was a kid, and I believe that they was doing a lot of sexual stuff with her when she was a child because she always says she was trying to throw um, shade on him to keep their association away from each other. She was like, I wouldn't trust him. Like I don't trust him. Like he's I mean, because when she seen that my mother was married to him, she was like, oh, but they was trying to act, like they don't know each other, but they did, and he knew her. He knew her like because he got high as this is what I'm saying. Like a lot of Masons that I know, they get high. They get high or they drink a lot or they get drunk. And not to put nobody down, I believe that if they could have had a good start at the beginning, had a good purpose, for building society or making society a better place. But when I like for me to not want to use somebody that's innovative, that has a creative mind, that thinks good, and you would rather try to destroy somebody like me, and that only indicates that these people they aren't doing the right thing by whatever it is that they're supposed to be doing. Because one time I had stumbled across um, not even stumbled across. It was shown to me, like, yo, no, Masons have your inheritance, and they normally hold on to it until you get what you till you obtain a certain level. And I seen this woman. She's on here. Her name is Monica Elohim, and she said that it's a divine Mason, then it's you know um, the man-made Mason. So you have divine Masons, which they said normally consist of 3 degrees, as opposed to the man Masons where there's 33rd degrees, and you know normally everything is ran according to the divine masonry. But if you can overshadow that and just adhere to this, then it's better for you. See, good people don't just because you're a part of it don't mean that you're a good person. But once you know somebody's heart and their soul and who they are and their makeup, then that's how you know a person. Like God might have children here. Like children might really, really be like God. They might have the heart of God, which is a good heart. God is good. So if you are associated with having goodness in you, then you are the children of God. It's almost like the parable of the weeds, where Christ told, where they was told that I planted seeds, then somebody else came and planted seeds. And should we get rid of them? No, we're going to let them grow up together. And then we're going to wheat them out. We're going to take all the good wheat and bring them into my barn. But all the others, we're going to take them and just, get rid of them. We're going to burn them. So this is like the parable of the weeds when it comes to, the children of God. There's good people here. Like the way that I care, the way that I feel, I'm not, I would never be considered, um, one of them. I'm nothing like them. whoever it is, or I'm not like a lot of people on this planet. So there's children of God here as well as somebody else's children, because I think different. I'm in a whole